Hello everyone and welcome back to What If Deku Obtained the Ultramatrix. So, we'll start off on the morning of his first day of class. He wakes up normally, he eats breakfast with his mom, Inko, and as he's walking to school, he starts thinking to himself, I wonder where this watch came from. My parents said that it fell while we were camping one day. I don't exactly remember much of it. Was I supposed to have this watch? Is this watch not mine? Was this meant for someone else? And he just continues to think about this until eventually he arrives in class still kind of dazed out thinking about this. Doesn't really even notice Ida and Bakugo yelling at each other. Ida telling Bakugo to get his feet off the desk. It's disrespectful to the school, and Bakugo giving him a middle finger and saying, I'll do whatever I want. And so he sits down and Ida walks over to him. He asks Deku how he is that day and that he'd like to welcome him to class 1A. Deku snaps out of this. He said, oh yeah, okay, my name's Deku. Ida would then introduce himself and he'd ask Deku what his quirk was since he saw him turn into some strange goop and upgrade some stuff and like take over machines. You sort of point at the Ultramatrix and say, I have this weird watch that lets me turn into different creatures. Ito would then say, well, how many can you turn into? Deku would be kind of shy, and at this point Ochako would show up and she would take her seat, and since in this timeline Ochako didn't know it was Deku who saved her, there wouldn't be that initial attraction there, and Deku would then turn to Ida and say, I have 21 that I know of so far. Ida would be, his mind would be blown by this. Someone having 21 basically mutation quirks, it was just never unheard of. Bakugo would tisk at overhearing this conversation because he is not eavesdropping anything. That's just not like him. Eventually, after everyone sort of takes their seats and gets done talking with another, Aizawa shows up in his yellow sleeping bag, looks at the students, and within himself he says he's kind of proud that all of them managed to quiet down and take their seats. That's the most logical thing to do when on your first day of school. He then tells the class to put on their gym uniforms and to meet him outside. One of the students pipes up and asks what they missed the orientation ceremony. He will then do his same remark about them wasting their time with frivolous ceremonies and something along those lines. So everyone meets outside. He then starts explaining the exercises that they'll be doing. He says that this is a quirk apprehension test. One of the students pipes up and says, this sounds fun. So then Aizawa decides to throw in a wrench into their ideas of what this is going to be. He announces to everyone that the person who gets the lowest score will be expelled. When the students pipes up, I think Ochaka is the one who says this, and says that he can't do that. It's against school policy, or it should be. Aizawa would then remark that in this school they are not beholden to traditions, therefore he can run his classroom however way he wants, and that he would expel anyone and is actually allowed to do it. During this, Deku does really good on like the first two, but then having to change between different aliens so fast in order to do this, his Ultramatrix starts to bug out. And during the grip test, instead of turning into Humongosaur like he hoped, he turns into Stinkfly. This form isn't really made for gripping since it only has 3 fingers, and he sort of fails miserably on the grip test. He goes through a few more failures until they finally reach the ball throw test. At this point, he's hoping, he's praying that this next one he chooses will be Humongosaur, because that's the strongest alien that he possibly has. He smacks down his Omnitrix, and it turns him into Wrath. Deku, being angry at this, would then decide to vocalize it. Ah, come on! Wrath? I mean, yeah, he's strong, but he's not what I wanted. Aizawa would then tell him to shut up and stop complaining and do the ball throw. This would then cause Wrath to snap at Aizawa, shouting and chewing him out. Aizawa would then get tired of this, trying to use his quirk nullifying eyeballs to finding it not working. Deku, quickly regaining control over Wrath and pulling him back, smacks himself out of the transformation. After this, Deku is panicking, not only on the inside because Aizawa uses quirk, and his quirk is to nullify others, so he might know that this isn't actually a quirk, and on the outside because he just badmouthed his teacher. He's furiously apologizing, asking him to forgive him, saying that he can't control his anger while he's in that particular transformation, and that he'll do better next time. Aizawa would be curious, because he couldn't nullify Deku's quirk, air quotes there, but he also wants to see where this goes, so he says, I'll give you one more chance. You mess up or you badmouth me again, you're getting expelled. A hero who can't learn to listen to authority figures has no place in hero society. That's just logical. So Deku puts his hand over the Ultramatrix one more time, gently presses down hoping for Humongousaur, and he finally gets him. But knowing that this is his last chance to impress Aizawa and make up for what he said, he hopes that this alien can go ultimate. So he presses the Omnitrix, hoping for it, and it does. He immediately grows a hard shell with spikes on it. His tail at the end of it has a sort of wrecking ball shape, also with spikes. His skin turns green, along with a few other features that should be on screen at the moment. And so he grabs the ball and chucks it as hard as he can. He ends up throwing the ball about 4 meters behind where Bakugo lands. This surprises Aizawa, since he wasn't really expecting anything on the same thing as Infinity Girl, but he also wasn't expecting Deku to be able to throw it that far. And also, the fact that he went into a transformation and proceeded to somehow make it better, even though he's never seen the transformation before, he can just kind of sense it, really intrigues him. So when the scores are finally dealt out, Deku gets not very low, but also not very high. He's kind of middling right now. So however, Mineta in this timeline is expelled. But that doesn't mean Mineta is out for the count. I'm debating on whether or not to have him have a chance to get back into 1A during the sports festival. But if you guys like that idea, feel free to leave that in the comments. If you don't like that idea, then Mineta is just out permanently. At lunch, Ida decides to sit with Deku, and since I think at this point Ochaka and Ida would be sort of friends, Ochaka joins him to sit with Deku. They start talking about how it was unfair that Mineta got expelled, and then the conversation turns towards Deku's quirk. They start asking him a lot of questions about how exactly his quirk works, and he simply says this: my quirk works like this. I have a bunch of different creatures I can transform into. I have a time limit on each creature, like, not each creature, like, I'm sorry, this is kind of embarrassing. I have an overall time limit about how long I can use my transformations, and each time I transform into a different creature, it removes some of the time limit. Ida and Ochako would sort of be accepting of this answer, but they're more curious to where the watch comes into play, because Ida, having metal in his legs from having his engine quirk, looks at it, and I think he'd know enough about quirks that give people less than biological appendages that whatever is on his wrist doesn't come from a quirk. So then, once the conversation gets off of Deku's quirk, it leads to stuff about school, how well they think they're gonna do, how they find their classes so far. Basic school talk. And then the next day, All Might appears, shouting, "I am here," as he blasts through a door, probably costing the school about $100 just to fix it. And he tells the class to get their hero costumes on and meet him at Battleground B. I have a question to pose to those who watch that I'll take into consideration your guys' opinions and whatnot. I'm having a hard time deciding what Deku's hero costume should be. I am hard-pressed to give him no hero costume since his watch doesn't necessarily need it, but I think Deku would be the type to also want a hero costume. I'm not sure if he would go with the same rabbit-looking thing that he would have since he had the watch from a very young age. So I leave this up to you. What would his hero costume be? And I guess I'll leave it right there. And this will be the end of part 2 of What If Deku Obtained the Ultramatrix. If you liked the video, again, leave a comment, like the video, tell me what you liked about it. If you didn't like the video, leave a dislike, tell me what I did wrong in the comments. Or if I made any sort of mistake, feel free to tell me. I'm not a prideful person. I am perfectly capable of taking criticisms. Anyway, I'll see y'all later, and until next time on What If Deku Obtained the Ultramatrix.